The massive space station hung in orbit above the dying planet like a metal moon. Its silver walls reflected the sickly yellow light that came from Kepler 442b below. The planet that once had blue oceans and green forests now looked like a giant bruise against the black of space. Inside the station's main council chamber, beings from across the galaxy sat around a circular table. The Viridians had skin like green glass and eyes that glowed with their own light. The crystalline collective members looked like walking diamonds, their bodies catching and throwing light in rainbow patterns. The Aquatic Federation representatives wore water suits that kept their fish-like bodies wet and comfortable. At the far end of the table, 3 humans sat quietly. They looked small compared to the alien beings around them. Captain Daypark wore his crisp blue uniform with pride, but his face showed worry. Ambassador Tay kept checking her notes, trying to look important. Between them sat Hana Kim, a young woman with tired eyes and dirt under her fingernails from working in laboratories. Commander Yuki of the Viridians stood up. Her tall, thin body cast a long shadow across the table. "We face the greatest crisis in galactic history," she said. Her voice sounded like wind through crystal caves. "Planet Kepler 442b is dying. Its people sleep in stasis pods waiting for us to save their world. We must act fast." The other aliens nodded their agreement. Hana leaned forward, her heart beating faster. She had spent years working on this problem. She had the answer they needed. A crystalline being spoke next. Its voice sounded like breaking glass. "Our quantum atmospheric processors are ready. We can rebuild the planet's air in 6 months. Our growth matrices will restore the soil," added another crystalline. "The minerals will be perfect for new life." An Aquatic Federation member bubbled through its water mask. "Our ocean seeding project will fill the seas with life again. The water will be pure and clean." Commander Yuki looked pleased. "These are proven methods, advanced technology that has worked on dozens of worlds." She paused and looked at the humans. "Of course, the humans are welcome to help with the heavy lifting and guard duty." Hana's hands tightened into fists under the table. She stood up slowly. "Commander Yuki, if I may speak?" The alien leader's glowing eyes focused on her. "Yes, human Hana. I believe there's a better way. My team has developed biorestoration methods that work with the planet's natural systems, instead of replacing them." Hana's voice was steady, but her heart pounded. "We use living organisms to heal the atmosphere and soil. It's safer and more stable than quantum processing." Several aliens made sounds that might have been laughter. A crystalline being's body flashed with bright colors. "Living organisms, how primitive." "Humans always think biology can solve everything," said another Viridian. "Your species only learned to travel between stars 200 years ago. We have been doing this for thousands of years." Commander Yuki held up her hand for silence. "Hana Kim, your concern is noted. However, this crisis requires advanced solutions, not biological experiments. The quantum processors have a 94% success rate." "But Commander," Hana said, standing up straighter. "My simulations show that quantum processing could make the atmospheric problems worse on this type of planet. The magnetic field is too weak, and the chemical composition is different from other worlds you've worked on." "Simulations are not reality," Commander Yuki replied coldly. "We have actual results from actual planets. Your biological methods are untested on this scale." Ambassador Tay tried to help. "Perhaps we could run both methods side by side? Test them on different parts of the planet?" A crystalline being flashed red with anger. "We do not have time for human experiments. Every day we delay, more of the indigenous people die in their stasis pods." Captain Daypark spoke for the first time. "My people are ready to serve in whatever way helps save this world." "Good," said Commander Yuki. "Your ships will provide orbital security. Your engineers can help with construction. Leave the science to those who understand it." Hana felt her face grow hot with anger and shame. She had dedicated her life to learning how to heal dying worlds. She had worked for years to develop her methods. But the aliens saw humans as nothing more than strong backs and good soldiers. The Vote is simple, Commander Yuki announced. All in favor of proceeding with proven quantum and crystalline restoration methods? Every alien hand, claw, and tentacle went up. The humans were not even asked to vote. Motion carried. We begin immediately. Commander Yuki looked at the humans. Captain Park, prepare your fleet for construction support. Ambassador Tay, your people will handle logistics. The science teams will handle the real work. As the meeting ended, aliens began leaving to start their work. They talked excitedly about their advanced technology and certain success. None of them looked at the humans. Jin Lee, Hana's research partner, walked over to her. He was a thin man with kind eyes and hands that were always covered in plant stains. I'm sorry, Hana. I know how much this means to you. They don't understand. Jin, Hana said quietly, their technology won't work on this planet. The atmospheric composition is too fragile. The quantum processors will create chain reactions that will make everything worse. But they have experience, Jin said. Maybe they know something we don't. Hana shook her head. Experience doesn't matter if you're using the wrong methods. It's like trying to fix a broken bone with a hammer instead of a cast. The hammer might be a more advanced tool, but it's not the right tool. Captain Day Park joined them. I know this is hard, but we have our orders. We support the mission however we can. Even if the mission is wrong? Hana asked. It's not our call to make, the captain replied. But his eyes showed doubt. As they walked toward the human quarters, Hana looked out through a viewing window at the dying planet below. Somewhere down there, thousands of beings slept in stasis pods, trusting the galaxy's greatest minds to save their world. But Hana knew the truth. In 6 months, when the alien technology failed, those beings would still be sleeping, and their world would be dead. She pressed her hand against the cold window. I won't let this happen, she whispered. I won't let them fail because they're too proud to listen. Jin looked at her with worry. Hana, what are you thinking? She turned away from the window. I'm thinking that sometimes being called useless just means you're the only one who knows what actually needs to be done. The humans walked away, but Hana's mind was already working. She had 6 months to prepare. 6 months to prove that sometimes the simplest solutions were the best ones. 6 months to show the galaxy that humans were more than just strong backs and brave soldiers. She would be ready when the aliens failed. She had to be. 6 months had passed since the Galactic Coalition began their work on Kepler 442b. From the observation deck of the space station, the planet looked worse than ever. What had once been a dying world was now a nightmare of swirling toxic clouds and dead oceans. Hana Kim stood at the viewing window watching another storm rage across the planet's surface. The winds were green and yellow, full of chemicals that burned everything they touched. She had predicted this would happen. She had tried to warn them, but nobody had listened. The atmospheric readings are getting worse every day, Jin Lee said as he joined her at the window. His tablet showed numbers that made Hana's stomach hurt. The air below was now poisonous to every known form of life. How bad is it? She asked, though she already knew the answer would be terrible. Oxygen levels are down to 3%. Toxic gas levels are up by 400% from when we started. The quantum processors aren't cleaning the air, they're making poison. Hana closed her eyes. She felt tired and angry and sad all at the same time. What about the soil? Jin checked another screen on his tablet. The crystalline growth matrices are eating all the minerals. The ground is becoming like sand. Nothing can grow in it now. Even their own crystal structures are starting to break down. Through the window, Hana could see the silver towers that the crystalline collective had built across the planet. They were supposed to fix the soil and make it rich for new plants. Instead, they glowed with sick red light as they consumed everything around them. And the oceans? Hana asked. Acid levels are worse than ever. The Aquatic Federation's seeding project created some kind of chemical reaction. All the fish they put in the water died in the first week. Now the water burns through metal. Hana turned away from the window. She couldn't bear to look at the dying world anymore. Where are the coalition leaders? What do they say about all this? That's the worst part, Jin said. They won't admit anything is wrong. Commander Yuki keeps saying the process takes time. The crystalline leaders say their matrices just need more energy. The Aquatic Federation thinks they didn't use enough chemicals. So they're going to keep making it worse? Yesterday they decided to double the power to all their machines. Hana felt like screaming. Every day the planet got sicker, and every day the aliens pushed harder with the same failed methods. It was like watching someone try to put out a fire with gasoline. She walked quickly through the station's corridors toward the human quarters. Other people she passed looked worried. Word was spreading that the mission was not going well, even though the official report still claimed success. In the human section, she found Dr. Su working at his computer. He was an old man with white hair and hands that shook slightly when he was angry. Right now his hands were shaking a lot. Dr. Su, what's the latest from the surface? Hana asked. The old scientist looked up with tired eyes. They won't let us see the real data anymore. Commander Yuki says human eyes might misunderstand the advanced readings, but I've been getting information through other channels. What kind of information? Dr. Su pulled up a hidden file on his screen. The indigenous people in the stasis pods. Their life support systems are failing. The toxic atmosphere is seeping into their underground shelters. The power systems can't handle the extra load of filtering poisoned air. Hana's heart sank. How long do they have? At the current rate of atmospheric decay? Maybe 2 months before, the stasis system shut down completely. 2 months. Hana sat down heavily in a chair. In 2 months, an entire civilization would die because the galaxy's smartest beings were too proud to admit their methods were wrong. There's more, Dr. Su said quietly. I've been running secret simulations of your biorestoration process, using the real atmospheric data, not the fake reports they give us. And? Your method would work, Hana. Even now, even with all the damage they've done, your organisms could still save the planet. But it would take at least 3 months to show major results. That's too long. The people in stasis will be dead by... Then, Dr. Su nodded sadly. Unless we start now, tonight. Without permission. Hana stared at him. You're talking about disobeying direct orders from the Coalition Council. I'm talking about saving lives while the people in charge play politics, with their reputations. Before Hana could answer, Captain Day Park walked into the room. His uniform was wrinkled and he looked like he hadn't slept in days. We have a problem, he said. The Coalition just ordered all human personnel to stay in designated areas only. No access to laboratories, no access to planetary data, no contact with surface teams. Why? Jin asked. They say human interference might contaminate their careful scientific process. The captain's voice was bitter. Translation? They know. It's not working and they don't want witnesses. Hana stood up. Her mind was racing. Captain, how many humans are on this station? 47 total. Why? How many of them would be willing to risk their careers to save an entire planet? Captain Day Park studied her face carefully. What? Are you planning, Hana? Something that will either make us heroes or get us all court-martialed. She looked around the room at Jin, Dr. Su, and the captain. I've been preparing biopods in secret for months. Atmospheric bacteria, soil repair organisms, water purification cultures. Everything we need to heal that planet. You've been working on this without authorization? The captain asked. I've been working on this because I knew their methods would fail. I just hoped I was wrong. Hana walked to the window and looked down at the poisoned world below. But I wasn't wrong, and now we're the only ones who can fix this. Dr. Su pulled up another file on his computer. I've identified landing sites. That would give us the best coverage. If we could get the biopods to these locations, we could start the healing process before it's too late. The Coalition will never approve it, Jin said. Then we don't ask for approval, Hana replied. We do what humans do best. We take care of our own problems. Captain Day Park was quiet for a long moment. Finally, he spoke. How long would we have before they noticed what we were doing? Once the biopods start working, the atmospheric readings will change within days. They'll know something is different. And when they find out? Hana smiled for the first time in months. By then, it will be too late to stop us. The organisms will be established and doing their work. They can court-martial us all they want, but they can't court-martial success. Through the window, another toxic storm swept across the dying planet. But for the first time since arriving at the station, Hana felt hope. Sometimes being called useless meant you were the only one willing to do what was necessary. So, she said to the room, "Who's ready to save a world?" The emergency alarm rang through the space station like a scream. Red lights flashed in every corridor as beings ran in all directions. Hana Kim ran toward the main council chamber, her heart pounding with fear and hope at the same time. She had been waiting for this moment for weeks. The moment when the coalition would finally have to admit their methods had failed completely. Inside the council chamber, chaos ruled. Alien scientists shouted at each other in a dozen different languages. Screens around the room showed terrible numbers. The planet below was dying faster than ever. Commander Yuki stood at the center of the storm, her usually calm face twisted with panic. "The atmospheric collapse is accelerating beyond all models," she announced to the room. "We have days, not weeks, before total system failure," a crystalline being flashed angry red colors. "The quantum processors are overloading. We cannot increase power anymore without destroying them completely. Our growth matrices are consuming themselves," said another crystal alien. "The mineral depletion is worse than we calculated." An Aquatic Federation member bubbled frantically through its water mask. "The ocean chemistry has become so acidic that it is dissolving our equipment. We cannot even get close to the water anymore." Hana watched from the doorway as the galaxy's greatest minds finally faced the truth. Their advanced technology had not just failed, it had made everything worse. Captain Day Park appeared beside her. "This is it," he whispered. "This is our chance." Through the arguing and panic, Commander Yuki's voice rose above the noise. "We need new options. All previous approaches have proven insufficient." Ambassador Tay stepped forward. "Commander, perhaps now would be a good time to consider human biorestoration methods." The room fell silent. Every alien eye turned toward the humans standing in the doorway. For a moment, nobody spoke. Then a crystalline being flashed with dismissive colors. "Biological methods take years to show results. We have days. Human technology is too primitive for this scale of crisis," added a Viridian scientist. Commander Yuki held up her hand for silence. Her glowing eyes focused on Hana. "Human Hana Kim, you spoke of biorestoration months ago. Explain your methods." Quickly, Hana stepped into the room. Her legs felt shaky, but her voice was strong. "My team has developed living organisms that work together to heal damaged atmospheres. Bacteria that eat toxic gases and produce oxygen. Plants that pull poison from soil and replace it with nutrients. Microorganisms that clean water and balance ocean chemistry." "How long would this process take?" Commander Yuki asked. "The first changes would be visible within days. Major atmospheric improvement within weeks. Full restoration in 3 to 6 months. Several aliens made sounds of disbelief. "Impossible," said a crystalline being. "Biological processes are too slow." "Not when they work together," Hana replied. "Each organism supports the others. They create chains of positive change that grow stronger over time." Jin Lee stepped forward with his tablet. "I have the simulation data. Success probability is 73%, even with current damage levels." 73%? A Viridian scientist sounded shocked. "Our quantum methods had 94% success rates. Your quantum methods failed," Dr. Su said quietly from the back of the room. 0% success is still 0%, no matter how high your original estimates were. Commander Yuki studied the humans carefully. "You have had months to prepare while we worked. Do you have these organisms ready?" Hana felt her heart stop. This was the moment of truth. "Yes, we have biopods prepared and ready for deployment." The room exploded with angry voices. "You prepared unauthorized biological weapons?" shouted a crystalline being. "We prepared solutions," While you prepared excuses, Captain Day Park replied firmly. This is completely against Coalition protocols, said a Viridian scientist. Humans cannot act without Council approval. The Council approved methods that killed a planet, Hana said. Maybe it's time to try something different. Commander Yuki raised her hand again. The arguing stopped, but the tension in the room was thick enough to cut. Show me your data, all of it. Jin Lee activated his tablet and projected holographic displays around the room. Charts and graphs showed atmospheric models, biological interaction networks, and timeline projections. The data was clear and detailed. Your organisms, Commander Yuki said slowly, they would consume our existing technology? They would neutralize the toxic effects and work around your equipment, Hana explained. We're not trying to destroy what you built. We're trying to heal what it damaged. But how do we know these creatures won't consume everything? How do we control biological processes once they begin? Dr. Su stepped forward. Each organism is designed with specific limitations. They can only survive in certain conditions and only consume certain materials. When their job is done, they naturally die off or go dormant. You're asking us to trust human biology with an entire world, said an Aquatic Federation member. You trusted alien technology with an entire world, Hana replied. How did that work out? Silence fell over the room. On the screens around them, the numbers kept getting worse. Atmospheric toxicity rising, ocean acidity increasing. The stasis pods holding the indigenous population showing critical power levels. Commander. Yuki looked around the room at her fellow coalition members. We are out of time and out of options. The indigenous population will die within 48 hours if we do nothing. And if the human methods fail? Asked a crystalline being. Then they die anyway, Commander Yuki replied. But at least we will have tried something new instead of doing the same failed thing harder. More silence. Hana could hear her own heartbeat in the quiet room. Finally, Commander Yuki spoke. Human Hana Kim, you have authorization to deploy your biorestoration pods. You have 48 hours to show measurable improvement, or we stop the process immediately. Hana felt like she might faint with relief and terror at the same time. Thank you, Commander. We won't let you down. You better not, Commander Yuki said, coldly. Because if you fail, you will be responsible for the death of an entire civilization. As the meeting broke up, aliens scattered to monitor the human operation. Some looked hopeful, others looked skeptical, most looked afraid. Captain, Day Park put his hand on Hana's shoulder. Are you ready for this? Hana looked out the window at the dying planet below. Somewhere down there, thousands of beings slept in failing stasis pods, trusting their lives to methods that had been dismissed as primitive and useless. I've been ready for months, she said. Now let's go save a world. Jin Lee grinned. Time to show them what humans can do. As they hurried toward the shuttle bay, Hana felt the weight of an entire planet on her shoulders. But for the first time since arriving at the station, she also felt hope. Sometimes being called useless just meant you were the right tool for a job nobody else understood. Now she had 48 hours to prove it. The shuttle shook as it entered the poisonous atmosphere of Kepler 442b. Hana Kim gripped her seat tightly and watched the toxic yellow clouds swirl outside the window. In 12 hours, she would either be a hero or the person who failed to save an entire civilization. Landing Zone Alpha is directly ahead, announced Captain Day Park from the pilot seat. Atmospheric readings are worse than our worst projections. Jin Lee checked his instruments. Oxygen at 2%. Toxic gas levels are off the charts. Even our protective suits will only last 6 hours in this environment. Hana looked at the cargo hold behind them, filled with dozens of biopods. Each pod contained millions of specially designed organisms that she had spent years developing. Bacteria that could eat poison and breathe out clean air. Tiny plants that could survive in dead soil and make it rich again. Water-cleaning microbes that could turn acid into something living creatures could drink. Are you sure about this, Hana? Asked Mira, the youngest member of their team. She was barely 25, with nervous hands and a brilliant mind for plant genetics. What if the organisms don't survive in these conditions? They were designed for exactly these conditions, Hannah replied, trying to sound more confident than she felt. Every simulation shows they should work, but simulations aren't reality. The shuttle landed with a hard bump on the cracked surface of what had once been a fertile plain. Through the window, Hannah could see the twisted remains of dead trees and soil that looked like gray ash. The air outside shimmered with heat and toxic chemicals. "Suits on, everyone," Captain Daypark ordered. "Remember, we have 6 hours maximum before we need to return to orbit." They put on their heavy protective suits and checked all the seals. One small leak would mean death in minutes. Hannah picked up the first biopod, a silver cylinder about the size of her arm. Inside were billions of atmospheric bacteria, sleeping until they could be released into the poisoned air. "Team Alpha, this is Command," came Commander Yuki's voice through their radios. "Coalition scientists are monitoring all readings. You have permission to deploy your first organisms." Hannah took a deep breath inside her helmet. Beginning atmospheric restoration sequence. She pressed the activation button on the biopod. The cylinder opened with a soft hiss, releasing a cloud of microscopic bacteria into the toxic air. The bacteria were too small to see, but Hannah knew they were already beginning their work, eating the poisonous gases, converting toxic chemicals into harmless compounds, beginning the slow process of making the air breathable again. "Pod 1 deployed," she announced. "Moving to position 2. For the next 4 hours, the team spread across the landing zone, releasing biopods every few hundred meters. Atmospheric bacteria went into the air. Soil repair organisms went into the dead ground. Water purification microbes went into the poisoned streams that crossed the area." Jin Lee monitored the readings on his portable scanner. "I'm seeing some changes already," he reported. "Toxic gas levels are dropping by small amounts. It's working, but very slowly." "How slowly?" asked Commander Yuki through the radio. "At this rate, it will take weeks to see major improvement," Jin admitted. Hannah felt her heart sink. Weeks were too long. The indigenous people in their stasis pods didn't have weeks. But then something unexpected happened. "Wait," Jin said, staring at his scanner in surprise. "The bacteria from Pod 1 are starting to reproduce faster than predicted, and they're communicating with the bacteria from Pod 2. "Communicating how?" Hannah asked. "Chemical signals. They're sharing information about local conditions and coordinating their efforts. The reproduction rate is increasing exponentially." Mira knelt by a stream where they had released water-cleaning microbes. "The pH levels in this water are changing much faster than our models predicted. Something is amplifying the effects." Hannah felt a flutter of excitement. It's the symbiotic networks. The organisms aren't just working individually. They're working together as a system. Through her radio, she could hear excited voices from the space station above. Coalition scientists were seeing the same readings and couldn't believe what they were watching. "Team Alpha," came Dr. Su's voice. "We're seeing atmospheric improvement across the entire deployment zone. Whatever you did down there, it's spreading." "The organisms are creating feedback loops," Hannah explained as she deployed another biopod. "Each success makes the next success easier and faster." By the time they had to return to the shuttle, the air around their landing zone was noticeably clearer. The toxic yellow color was fading to a lighter shade. The streams ran cleaner. Even the dead soil looked less gray. "Command, this is Team Alpha," Captain Daypark reported as they lifted off. "First deployment is complete and showing rapid positive results." Back on the space station, the command center was buzzing with activity. Alien scientists gathered around screens showing atmospheric readings from across the planet. The numbers were changing faster than anyone had expected. Commander Yuki approached Hannah as she removed her protective suit. "Your organisms are spreading beyond the deployment zones. How is this possible?" "They're designed to reproduce and spread naturally," Hannah explained. "But only in environments where they can do their specific jobs. They can't survive in healthy atmospheres, so they won't become invasive." "The improvement rate is accelerating," reported a Viridian scientist. At current rates, atmospheric toxicity will reach safe levels within days, not weeks. A crystalline being flashed with amazed colors. The biological networks are more efficient than our quantum processors ever were. Because they work with the planet's existing systems instead of replacing them, Jinli added. They're healing the world from the inside out. Over the next 24 hours, the changes became dramatic. The toxic storms that had raged for months began to calm. The yellow clouds started turning white. Ocean acidity levels dropped as water-cleaning microbes spread through the sea currents. Most importantly, the indigenous population's stasis systems began to stabilize. The cleaner air meant their life support systems no longer had to work as hard to filter out poison. Atmospheric oxygen levels have reached 12% and rising, announced Dr. Su. The indigenous population is no longer in immediate danger. Commander, Yuki stood before the main viewing window, watching the planet below. For the first time in months, patches of blue ocean were visible through the clearing clouds. How did we miss this? She asked quietly. How did we overlook something so elegant? Hana joined her at the window. You didn't miss it. You just thought it was too simple to work on this scale. And you knew it would work? I hoped it would work. I believed it would work. But I didn't know until we tried. Commander Yuki turned to face her. Your species has given us something valuable today. Not just a solution to this crisis, but a new way of thinking about these problems. We work with nature instead of against it, Hana said. Sometimes the simplest approach is the most powerful. Below them, the planet continued to heal. Green patches began to appear in areas where the soil organisms had done their work. The water in the oceans grew clearer as the pH levels balanced. The air itself seemed to sparkle as it cleaned itself with each passing hour. In the depths of the planet, stasis pods hummed quietly, their occupants sleeping peacefully as their world came back to life around them. Soon, very soon, they would wake up to a planet reborn. And in the space station above, aliens and humans worked together, for the first time, learning from each other as they watched a miracle unfold below. 18 months later, Hana Kim stood in a garden that had not existed when she first arrived at Kepler 442b. Green trees reached toward a blue sky filled with white clouds. Clean streams ran between flowers that bloomed in colors she had never seen before. The air smelled fresh and sweet, like rain on spring grass. It was hard to believe this was the same planet that had been dying when she first saw it from space. The morning readings are perfect again, Jinli said as he joined her in the garden. His tablet showed numbers that would have seemed impossible 2 years ago. Oxygen at 21%. No toxic gases detected. Ocean pH levels balanced and stable. Every day I expect to wake up and find out this was all a dream, Hana replied, watching a small bird build its nest in one of the restored trees. If it's a dream, I don't want to wake up. They walked along a path that led to the center of the garden where a special tree grew. It was taller than the others, with silver bark and leaves that changed color with the light. This was a gift from the indigenous people of Kepler 442b, planted to honor the humans who had saved their world. Near the tree, a group of children played together. Some were human children, from the families of scientists and engineers who now lived permanently on the planet. Others were young members of the indigenous species with pale blue skin and large, kind eyes. They laughed and ran together as if they had always been friends. Hana, there you are, came a familiar voice. Commander Yuki approached through the garden, but she looked very different from the proud alien leader who had dismissed human methods 2 years ago. She walked more slowly now, and her glowing eyes held a warmth that had not been there before. Good morning, Commander, Hana said with a smile. How are the new students doing? Better than I expected, Yuki replied. The crystalline scientists are having trouble understanding biological systems at first, but they're learning quickly. Your teaching methods are very effective. 6 months ago, Hana had established the Interspecies Biorestoration Institute in the restored city near the garden. Scientists from across the galaxy came to learn human methods for healing damaged worlds. What had once been called primitive and useless was now considered the most advanced ecological science in known space. I have news from the Galactic Council, Commander Yuki continued. 3 more worlds have requested human biorestoration assistance. The Council has approved all 3 requests and asked if you can train more teams. Hana felt proud and overwhelmed at the same time. How many worlds is that now? 17 planets currently undergoing human-led restoration, 4 more scheduled to begin next year, and the requests keep coming. Jin Lee shook his head in amazement. 2 years ago, nobody wanted our help. Now we can't train people fast enough to meet the demand. Success has a way of changing minds, Commander Yuki said, especially when that success saves entire civilizations. They continued walking through the garden until they reached the Memorial Plaza. Here, carved stones honored the alliance between species that had made the restoration possible. Human names were carved alongside alien names, recording the cooperation that had brought a dead world back to life. At the center of the plaza stood Captain Day Park, now wearing the uniform of the Coalition Environmental Defense Fleet. He was speaking with a group of young officers from different species, teaching them about protecting restored worlds from future damage. "Captain," Hana called out as they approached. Day Park smiled and joined them. "Just finished the morning briefing for the new protection fleet. We now have 40 ships dedicated to environmental defense across the galaxy." "Any new threats to worry about?" Jin asked. "Nothing major. A few mining companies trying to set up operations on restored worlds without proper permits. We convinced them to find other locations." The captain's fleet was another result of the Kepler 442b success. The galaxy had learned that healing worlds was only the first step. Protecting them from future damage was just as important. "I have something to show you," Commander Yuki said, pulling out a small device. She activated it, and a holographic display appeared showing a star map. Dozens of systems were marked with green lights. Each green light represents a world saved or being saved using human biorestoration methods, she explained. As of yesterday, we have successfully restored atmospheric balance to 23 planets, cleaned the oceans of 15 worlds, and returned fertile soil to 31 different ecosystems. Hana stared at the map in wonder. Each light represented millions of lives saved, entire civilizations given new hope for the future. "There's something else," Commander Yuki continued. "The Galactic Council has voted to make humans full partners in the Coalition. No more support roles or guard duty assignments. Humanity will have equal voice in all major decisions." The news hit Hana like a gentle wave. Full partnership meant that humans would never again be dismissed as primitive or useless. Their methods and ideas would be valued and respected across the galaxy. "When does this take effect?" Captain Day Park asked. "It already has. Ambassador Tay is representing humanity at the council meeting happening right now. She's presenting proposals for 3 new biorestoration projects." As they talked, more people joined them in the plaza. Dr. Su arrived with a group of his advanced students, both human and alien scientists working together on new restoration techniques. Mira came from the research laboratories, her hands still stained with soil from her latest experiments in plant genetics. The indigenous people of Kepler 442b also came to the plaza, as they did every morning. They moved with grace and quiet dignity, their pale blue skin shimmering slightly in the sunlight. Their leader, an elderly being they called the Keeper of Memory, approached Hana with something in his hands. "For the one who gave us back our sky," the Keeper said in his musical voice. He held out a small plant with silver leaves and tiny white flowers. "This grows only in soil that has been healed from death. It is our symbol of hope reborn." Hana accepted the plant with careful hands. "Thank you, I am honored." "You called your method simple," the Keeper continued. "But simple does not mean easy. Simple means understanding what truly matters. You understood that life wishes to live, and you helped it find the way." As the crowd in the plaza grew larger, Hana found herself thinking about the long journey that had brought them here. From being dismissed as useless to becoming teachers for the galaxy. From watching a world die to helping dozens of worlds live again. Jin Lee stood beside her, watching human and alien children play together under the restored sky. "Do you ever miss the old days?" when it was just us humans fighting to prove our worth? Hana smiled as she watched a young crystalline being help a human child climb a tree. I miss the challenge sometimes, but I like this better. Working together instead of trying to prove ourselves. What's next for us? Asked Mira. Hana looked up at the blue sky, where ships from a dozen different species traveled between the stars carrying biorestoration supplies to worlds that needed healing. We keep doing what we do best, she said. We help life find a way. In the distance, the sound of laughter echoed through the garden as more children discovered the joy of a world reborn, and in the restored soil beneath their feet, millions of tiny organisms continued their quiet work, keeping the planet healthy and alive for generations to come. Sometimes being called useless just meant you were exactly what the galaxy needed, even when the galaxy didn't know it yet.